Good morning. This is the culmination and the highlight of our trip. We've reached Santiago de Compostela and we walk in the final part of the Camino Francés. This is it, the end for all the pilgrims that have set off from wherever in the world to make this big pilgrimage all the way to the cathedral in the centre of Santiago de Compostela. It's where it's said is the remains of St. James, the Apostle of Christ. The plaza's starting to fill up now with pilgrims who've reached the end of the journey. And the hotel just opposite here is quite famous. Given its location, you can imagine it's quite expensive, but every day it gives away a certain amount of rooms to free to the pilgrims that have completed the journey. It's been a long journey for some of these people that are outside the cathedral now, and I have to say it has been a real privilege to see them walk in this massive distance. It's a real achievement that they've got when they arrive in this square here in front of the cathedral, and it's been a joy to watch them. Some are in tears, some are doing TikTok things for social media, and some have just got a look of delight or relief on the faces, and I take my hat off to them, because this has been, no matter if you've walked the 60 miles or you've walked the full 870 kilometres from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, it's a massive, massive achievement. We have some very weary pilgrims here who are all queuing to get their official certificate, their Compostela, to say that they've finished the Camino. Good morning. If you've been following our vlogs and our journey, you'll know that we've had a Camino theme running from start to finish, from the first vlog we did in Canterbury to the one now where we're at a place called Fistera in northern Spain. And we set off on the Camino journey, or the Camino Francés journey, from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port in southwest France. And we've followed the route, albeit in the motorhome, and we've walked some of it, and we've followed it all the way through northern Spain, finishing at Santiago de Compostela. And we thought that was the end of it, but we then found out about a place called Fistera, where we are now, or as the Romans called it, Finterra. They thought this was the end of the world, that this was the most westerly place in Europe. Obviously, it wasn't. And for the pilgrims that have walked the Camino, whichever route they've taken, they go to Santiago de Compostela. They kneel in front of the bones of St. James, they go to confession, they go to the Pilgrim's Mass, and that is the end of their Camino, and they get their Compostela, or the certificate that tells them that they've completed their pilgrimage. Now, 1% of pilgrims then continue the walk and come to Fistera, and this is what they did in Roman times, and continuously from then onwards. And they come here, they leave mementos at the end of the world, which they saw it as boots, they put stickers, they put clamshells. And what they used to do was they would leave their clothes here, they would burn them, they would then swim in the Atlantic Ocean and that would be the commencement of their new life. It's been a real privilege and at times quite emotional seeing the pilgrims finish the journey, particularly at Santiago. The look of, I guess, delight, joy, relief. Some have burst into tears as they've finished. And for me, it doesn't matter whether they've walked the 60 miles from Sarria to qualify for the certificate, if they've done the route from San John, which is 800 and something kilometres. They've done something, and they've put one foot in front of the other, and for whatever reason they've achieved their goal, and it's been wonderful to see them. There's been some very tired people. Just about everybody was limping, but the joy to see on their faces when they'd finished was a real privilege to see. And I think this is something that a journey and a trip that Martin and I will never forget. Good afternoon. Well, we've made the short journey from Fisterra up to a place called Mafia, which is spelt M-U-X-I-A. So I'm sorry if I've pronounced that wrong. And this most definitely is the final place on the Camino de Santiago. This is our camper contact park up for this evening. It's free, there are no services. But there is a toilet in the building just behind us. And as you can see, it's got quite a stunning view as we look out towards the North Atlantic and the lighthouse. It's said that the Virgin Mary travelled across the sea in a boat made of rocks out to this location here to give St. James the Apostle confidence to continue his evangelical work. And it's said that the remnants of the boat are still here, and they're formed into 5 different shaped rocks. And if you go onto the rocks, they have healing powers and also powers of prophecy. And that's continued the Camino out here. And that's why you see pilgrims come out here having continued the journey. They're absolutely shattered, but they've continued all the way out here. And I take my hat off to them. But it's a really good place to finish. It's just a couple of minutes walk from the park up. You get a great view of the church, Our Lady of Abasa. And the church looks, I have to say, it's in really good condition. And that's because in 2013, on Christmas Day, believe it or not, there was an accidental fire, and most of the church was destroyed. The side walls remained, but you can still see, if you look now, a little bit of scorch marks on the side of the wall. But the roof and most of the internal pews and everything inside was destroyed, and it's been rebuilt by the community. And as I pan further round than there, you'll see something that's quite looks like a quite modern art, really, and it's the sculpture with the fascia down the middle of it, and that's to thank all the workers here who in 2008 out at sea, just out here, there was a petrochemical and a fuel spillage. I think it was called the ship was called the Prestige, and 800 kilometres of coastline was damaged, partly destroyed. And I have to say they've done a good job, because It's looking in pretty good condition now. There's a small tribute here to I don't know, it's your mum or grandma, who knows. And it shows you the reasons why people walk the Camino. They come here in memory of people, to do it for them, to do a little bit of it with them, I guess. And it's nice to see the cross with the rosary beads on it, and a picture of a lady who was very much loved by the looks of it. I always think there's something pretty relaxing about watching the waves. I could sit here all day, apart from Poppy's seen a bird. I could sit here all day and watch the waves crashing against the rocks and looking at the power of Mother Nature, I have to say. But so I'm going to relax here for a little while and just enjoy the views.
It's only appropriate that we do the sign-off for this tour in the square outside the cathedral at the Santiago de Compostela. But hats off to H. This theme for this tour started when she saw this film called The Way with Martin Sheen in. And it sort of really told the story in a dramatic way of the actual Camino trail and why people do it. And so we weren't able to walk all of it. Obviously we've got a very young dog and a motorhome. It's not possible. But we decided to find a way to experience the Camino and to understand it a little bit more and why people do it. We've seen the camaraderie, we've seen the blood, sweat and sometimes the tears. Along the way from the walkers, and we've got, as Helen said previously, we're full of admiration for the walkers. But we just wanted to finish here and say what a wonderful trip this has been. We caught the train on the 18th of February. We've only got now a couple of weeks left and we're going to bimble towards the boat along the coast, but this was the main purpose of our trip, to come here. So that said, there's nothing more to say other than to thank you for following us, thank you for subscribing, we really appreciate it. And if you follow us on our other social media channels, you'll pick up some of the images we've taken with the camera.
And if you've got any questions, please drop them in the comments. We're more than happy to answer.
But don't forget, on our website we keep blogs. We've kept a list of all the questions that we've been asked by people since we set off, and all the sorts of information. So there you go.
Yep.
So with that said, Martin out.
Helen out.